So my name's Melissa, and I'm interviewing you for your oral history, for our oral history project on religion. My teammates are Jose and Tyler, and so we'll be asking you a couple questions.
Okay.
So tell us about your childhood. What was it like growing up?
In regards to religion or just in general?
In general, if you want.
I grew up with two younger brothers. My mom didn't work, so she stayed at home and provided for us. My dad worked full time. He traveled a lot. So it was really up to my mom to kind of keep the household together. My dad was really the disciplinarian. Although he wasn't there often, it was kind of like, oh, don't tell dad, you know. But yeah, nice household. My parents are fairly young. And so it was always good because we could relate on different topics. Things weren't so out of the box when I had an issue because of our age. So I think it was a good upbringing, fairly fun. I'm very close to my brothers. We're all 4 years apart, so it was nice.
So, what does being religious mean to you?
You know, it's funny. I think that word has such a negative connotation to it. I prefer the word maybe being spiritual. I think that religious, the word religious kind of has a view that you're a little hypocritical of different religions. And so I like the term being spiritual, and I just think that is having a connection with whatever higher being that you are connected to, or having that faith in something that is not something that you can really see, but you feel mostly as an emotion.
What roles does African American religion play in your life?
So African American religion, that's an interesting question. My uncle actually is a pastor, or what is his title? A bishop, actually. A bishop in Oakland, California. That's where I'm from originally. And he is the president of the West Coast chapter of the Baptist Church. And so he's pretty high up. Met President Obama, went to the White House. And I grew up in that church as a younger little girl, but you know, the church, it was always really long. The services would be 3-4 hours, and you're sitting there as a little kid, and you know, you sleep, you wake up, you go to the corner store, you come back, you go back to sleep. And so growing up, and we would go to church twice a day. So in the morning for 3 hours, and then at night, you never know when we were done. I mean, the pastor would finish whenever he thought it was appropriate, you know. It would just kind of be like, okay, stand up, we're gonna get out of here. It could be 5 hours later, 3 hours later, you know, and so growing up in that type of dynamic, typically a Baptist church is more of an African American church. I was kind of turned off when I became or got of age to choose my own church. I went towards more so non-denominational churches, or just Christian churches. I was baptized Christian. I've tried Catholic churches. You know, I'm really open to more so not the religion itself, but the message that's being sent through that religion. So I think that African American religion, it really depends on your personality. I know my grandparents, they're old school, so they still go to the Baptist church and spend hours of their day. I'm like, hey, I like my Sundays to rest. I want to go get a good message and then, you know, have the rest of my day to enjoy. So I think that is, I know it's tradition, but also could be problematic for a younger generation, especially African Americans.
So were you born into your religion, or did you convert? And if you converted, why?
So I was baptized Christian. Although we went to a Baptist church, it was just kind of a branch of Christianity. But yeah, I was born into it, and like I said, I've tried different religions. But I kind of always go back to Christianity. I like that mindset. I like those messages when I go to those different churches. And so I just found a church out here recently, although it's a little far, and it's a Christian church, and you know, I think I'm going to stick with it. So I haven't kind of crossed over into another religion as of yet.
So how did religion affect African Americans?
In what regard? In what?
Like in, let's say, your community, like how it affects them in any way.
In my community. Well, I think that generally speaking in the African American community as a whole, I think religion plays a part in many ways. Behavior changes, right? I know a lot of friends that used to sell drugs or used to be on drugs, and then they turned to religion and, have changed their lives around. Now they're youth counselors, or, they're giving back to the community in different ways. I know people that have been to jail and then they've converted over to not necessarily Christianity, but maybe Christianity, or maybe becoming Muslim, whatever connection to change their life around, ask for repentance in whatever way they see fit. So I think that in the African American community, religion is a positive place to be. A church or cathedral is a positive place to kind of go and reinvent yourself and refresh yourself. And I have tons of friends that have been rebaptized, just to start anew and start fresh. So I think that it is a staple in the African American community as a place where you can kind of refresh and start over and put the things that you're not so proud of in the past.
How has it affected you and your family?
Religion? Well, I think that, later down the line, my parents got a divorce. And when they got a divorce, my mom, we had always gone to church, but not every single Sunday. And I think my mom really turned her anxiety about the divorce, her struggles within the divorce, towards church, and used that as a resource and an outlet, and connected with other women who, were going through the same things. And my parents both met with the pastor when they were getting a divorce to make sure, their emotions were on the same page, and they just felt good in the space that they're in. So I think that religion has definitely impacted my family in a positive way. My youngest brother, who's now 20, sometimes will go to church and he'll know songs. And I'm like, oh, how'd you know this? And he's like, well, I was at church with Mom, you were in college, So like he still remembers, he loves, there's certain songs that he absolutely loves. And sometimes when we're there, if he gets emotional about the message, he'll have tears in his eyes. It makes me have tears in his eyes because he has tears, because he's so connected. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
Wait, before you go, you said you tried other religions previously?
Yeah.
What religions were those?
I went to, although I was Christian, I went to Catholic school all my life. So I was definitely exposed to that religion, and I thought it was cool. It was interesting. I do say that it's very systematic. Stand up, sit down, repeat this, do that. It's just the same every single Sunday, right? And so I kind of wanted something with a different message. So I went back to Christianity. When I became an adult, I just didn't go to Catholic school, church anymore. And also I did try being a part of the Nation of Islam, which is a little different from Islamic Middle Eastern values. It's an African American type of organization, and it really focused on just self-awareness and self-promotion. And I went to one of their services, and I just didn't like it. Felt a little cultish to me, honestly. Men and women still set apart. When you walked through, you had to be wanded down and went through a metal detector. I thought that was kind of strange for a church. But, I understand due to their background in military and kind of Black Panther lingering types of things. But, so those are the two that I tried that, really, I was like, nah, I think I'm going to head back to what I'm used to.
What aspects of your everyday life are affected by religion?
Aspects of everyday life. I just really try to be the best person I can be. The older I get, the more I realize that what you put out is really what you give. So, I try to do right. I, try to be fair every day. I try to, put myself in other people's shoes really every single day. So I think it affects my life in a positive way on a daily basis.
What kind of person would you be without religion in your life, and how would you be different?
I think that I would probably be more stressed out, without religion, because I feel like my faith is pretty strong, and so when I'm feeling down or if I'm feeling stressed out, I kind of just turn to God and say a couple prayers. Or I just recently bought this book, and it says, the title is God's Wisdom for Women for Life. And so in this book, it gives you every category. If you're feeling hopeless, sad, happy, you feel like you have no one to talk to, lonely, and you go and there's just these 3 pages of scriptures for you to kind of read and go over. And so I love that book, and I've been using it a lot lately. So, I think it's just keeping that faith and keeping me a positive person.
Do you feel important to attend worship service, or do you feel it can fully participate in your religion without attending worship service?
I do think that going to a worship service is important. I don't think that you need to go every single Sunday. I do think that you need to go and get refreshed. You know what I'm saying? I do think that you need to go and hear new words and new translations of the message that's being delivered in the Bible. And sometimes when you're in your own mindset, you have different aspects of the Bible that you like instead of different aspects about, the unknowing. So I think that it is important to attend, but not every day, not all the time. I don't think that is a key component in your religion.
Have you had any personal experience that have reaffirmed your faith?
All the time. All the time. I'm a teacher, so I don't make that much money. And when I'm broke, I'm like, please God, get me through the day, and magically it happens. No, I'm just joking. All the time. I really have to say all the time. When I feel like I, just can't get out of a situation, I swear to you, I pray on it, and a solution comes about somehow, some way, whether it's someone reaching out to me or I find a solution, and it just happens for me. So I've been really fortunate. My faith is awesome and undeniable for sure.
How does your religion differ from others? Like, how is this more special than the other ones for you?
I think all religions have their own special qualities or unique elements to them. I think that Christianity can be an open religion. There's not a lot of restrictions or boundaries compared to some other religions, and I like that. I mean, the world is already living your life on a daily basis is enough struggle as it is, and then when you have a religion to impose certain beliefs or certain elements that you have to live by on a daily basis. For some, they like that restrictive lifestyle. For me personally, I don't.
Okay. Would you ever consider exploring other?
Six to 10.
Yeah.
What religions do you think had the biggest impact towards African American religion? What?
Okay, so out of all the different religions, which one do you think has the most influence on African Americans? I think Christianity. If you go back to slavery, right? They weren't Buddhist, right? So I think that has a deep root in the African American culture. So I would probably say Christianity out of all of them, and then probably second. I don't know.
Aren't they converted to Christianity when they were captured? That's what I was always like.
You know, I'm an English teacher. But yes, I would say sounds about right. I mean, yeah. Well, actually, you know, that's a good point. Maybe they would have been, could possibly have been Buddhist, or because I have a girlfriend who is, I can't remember what part of Ghana, I can't remember where she's from exactly in Africa, and she is Buddhist. So it's possible. Yeah, it is possible. I don't know. Get back to me, find out.
How has African American religion changed over the years that you've been invested with?
Okay, well, just like what I was saying, in that Baptist church, well, I think there's two things. I think in the Baptist church, they're trying to cater to youth a little more and cut down on the hours of service, like that old school tradition of 4 or 5 hours. I'm seeing a lot of churches go down to like an hour, hour and a half. I'm seeing that the dress code is kind of changing. When I was a little girl, women only could wear skirts. They had to be below the knee. You had to have stockings on. I don't think I even own a pair of stockings now. You know, I do wear pants. I can wear jeans to work church sometimes. That's a whole new dynamic to church. So I do think that they're slowly changing with the times. I do see a lot more younger pastors. When I was a little girl, I mean, our pastor, I thought he was going to die any second if he coughed or anything, right? He was like 80, 90 years old. But now you have in their 40s and their 30s, you know. The youngest one I've seen is probably 36. So I think that that's helpful to bring in the youth and kind of help to connect what's the messages in the Bible to what's going on. I had a couple pastors, you know, talk about maybe Drake in their sermon, or, you know, a popular song to get people or youth more involved in what he's saying. So I think that that is a cool thing that they're adapting.
What do you think are some of the major misconceptions of your religion?
I think really the one that sticks out most to me in regards, not necessarily to the religion per se, but the environment of the church, is two things really. One is that I feel that sometimes people that are non-African American might go to a church that's predominantly African American and say, I don't fit in. This isn't for me. And so I would say that that's a misconception, because it doesn't matter who is in the church, right? It matters about the message that's being delivered. So maybe that person would feel, oh, well, this message isn't for me because of the audience that's here. So I think that's a misconception. I also think that the misconception of black churches always have people hollering and jumping up and down and running around in the church. I believe that's also a misconception. I've been to a lot of black churches that, you know, don't do that necessarily. So.
Have you ever been discriminated against because of your religion, and how did you respond? Or your previous religion, because you said you were Muslim or Nation of Islam.
Yeah. Because of religion.
Like when you were in the Nation of Islam, did you ever wear the hijab or anything?
No, I didn't have to cover up because I was just a guest.
Oh, okay.
Right, so I only went to one. I didn't convert or anything. It was just kind of a trial and error. But no, I don't think, you know what's interesting about that question is, especially in your workplace, you really don't get into, right, they say don't talk about religion and politics. So unless it's brought up in a open environment where everyone's free to talk and there's no judgment, I think that would be the only time, you know, that I would talk about religion. But it really doesn't come up in my day-to-day work relations or any situation of that. So.
How about just as a woman, has anyone ever said anything crazy in, like, within Christianity?
You know, I think that like I stated about our attire, I think that men have a certain viewpoint of how women should look in the church, and just looking feminine, really, for the most part. Like I said, no pants, skirts, socks. No pants. It's been a long day. No pants, no tights, no, preferably closed-toe shoe. Hair not too messy, kind of slick back, classic look. So I think that those are maybe some underlining issues towards women in the church.
So no one's ever been like, you need to put a dress on.
No, I haven't ever. Besides my grandmother, I'll say, when we would leave to go to church, she'd be like, I know you're gonna put some pantyhose on. I'm like, oh gosh, do I really have to? Like, they itch, right? But nonetheless, no, not really.
Do you think religion affects your relationship in any way?
That's a good question. My boyfriend goes to church. He goes to a Christian church. Actually, the church that he took me to just this weekend was awesome, and I fell in love. And so I do think that it affects relationships. Mine, no, but I do know of friends that it is a problem, especially if one believes in God and one doesn't. One has faith and one doesn't. I've seen it really, I've seen it in relationships, because you want to be on the same page with that person spiritually. I think it's important.
Mm-hmm.
They can have different religions, but just be on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So, good question.
You already asked 10.
Oh.
Any other questions for me?
Not written. I probably could have thought of some.
I think those were good. Good job, guys.